Welcome to this episode of Turbocharging Teams. In the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to share some tips related to Microsoft Teams that we hope you find interesting and potentially make you more productive. My name is Kevin Keeler, and I'm joined as usual by my colleague Dino Caputo. And today we're going to talk about the new things in Microsoft Teams, because Microsoft Teams continues to evolve. And I think one of the key reasons is because that Microsoft was recently able to report over 145 million daily active users of Teams is because they keep adding and innovating. But, with this rapid pace of innovation, sometimes, most of the time, I would say, it's hard to keep track of all the new features. So if you're an end user, you might be missing something that could make your workday a little bit better. And if you're an IT pro, knowing what is new really gives you the opportunity to potentially be a superstar by helping your end users know about new features that make their life a whole bunch easier. So Dino, how do I figure out what's new?
So the easiest way is right from your Teams client. And so in the bottom left, in the left-hand rail at the very bottom, you see the help icon. And if you click on it, you surprisingly have an option that says what's new. And what's great about that is that right within the Teams client, it'll pop up and list all the things that are new in sort of chronological order from the date of the most recent release all the way back. Like, so, for example, if I try that right now, I can see what's new in Microsoft Teams. And there's a note there talking about Internet Explorer 11, how that support's going away. My
Don't
gosh.
use that, yes.
Yeah. And then, there's a message about choosing your notification style, say on April 30th, and you can see notes on the 23rd. And also, I can choose desktop, like there's options or tabs that I can choose from and change what I'm seeing. So, it's defaulted to desktop and web. I can look at iOS or Android or Microsoft Teams devices if I'm interested in looking at what's new for devices, MTR. And so that's great. So do you really, without having to leave the Teams client, you can see all these different notifications here. And I think, as well, all of this information really is just, you can link to it and find it. If you just do a search in your favorite search provider and look at what's new in Teams, you'll get to a support.microsoft.com landing page, and you can see it's exactly the same information, just that Teams renders. Of course, as you know, Teams allows you to easily render web pages, so they're just pulling in that same information from the website. So that's really cool. So that's probably the best way to access what's new in Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, no, that's great because you don't have to remember the URL or anything. You just go click on that to the question mark at the bottom of the left rail. And the other thing that I think is key is that you pointed out is, what's new on the desktop versus iOS versus, so on different platforms, they add different features at different points in time. So whatever you use, then that's nice. I'm going to talk about another thing, which is the Microsoft 365 roadmap. Here's the URL on the screen. When you go there, it's not just for Microsoft Teams, it's kind of for everything. What I kind of like is on the main banner, the roadmap kind of has a roadmap. So it's like there's a button that you can see how the roadmap's improved. But anyway, it's kind of like meta. But the thing you want to do is like there's a bunch of filters. So on products, there's all of the Microsoft 365 products. But the key thing, if you're interested in what's new with Microsoft Teams, is you kind of go down and you check off Microsoft Teams. And you can also filter on things like the release phase, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that rings and release phases. And you can also check, there's some boxes that just show you things that are new or changed in the last week or last month. But so when I go in there right now and say, hey, Microsoft Teams, the roadmap, it tells me that there's 403 updates. 194 in development, 47 that are rolling out to the different, tenants, and 162 items that are launched. And then there's a big list, and you can click on each one, and it gives you additional detail. if, just to show you how quick things are changing, I filtered by what's new in the last week, and there's 30 updates. Oh, sorry, in the last week, there's eight new things that moved into development. If I say what's new in the last month, and there's 30 updates that have either moved into development, in this case 27 kind of started, and 2 are rolling out, and 1 is launched. Um, and in terms of new and changed things, just in the last month, there's 203 things. So when we say there's lots of new things, coming to Teams, like there's hundreds of things in typical month. So one of the other things with the roadmap that I like to do is there's a download button, and when you click that, it effectively gives you a CSV file you can open up in Excel, and then just use your Excel normal data sorting things to be able to look at or even search more easily for things that you may be interested in, or you're saying, wait a second, when did this change? A lot of times I go, did I miss this? And so you can kind of export it. So that Microsoft roadmap is great for Teams and any other Microsoft 365 product that you're interested in. So another way, though, you can keep track of things that are new, more if you're an admin, is Dino. What is that way?
Yeah, Kevin, you can go into the admin center and look at all these as well and some other things. So as a Microsoft admin, you can go to admin.microsoft.com, and then along the left rail, there's Health and Message Center. And so there's all these Message Center notifications that come through there, and you can even subscribe to them and select which products you're interested in. So when you go into the Health Message Center, it's for all Microsoft products, Teams, SharePoint, Exchange. So you can easily filter on those, and then you'll see the Message Center IDs that coincide with the emails you may or may not be subscribing to. So, I'm looking in there right now, and if I just type Teams, there's 108 current Message Center notifications, and the last update, there's 3 from yesterday, for example. Increasing interactive meeting participants and chat from 300 to 1,000. So that's some exciting new news that's been floating around. Join a Teams meeting with a digital ID is hit our tenant, and immersive reading coming to SharePoint pages. So this one's more about SharePoint Online, but it does impact Teams. So really kind of cool that you can line these things up that way too. So as an administrator, you'll want to keep your eye and keep track on those things, so you know what's coming in particular for your tenant.
No, that's good. I was waiting for you to list every single Microsoft product, right? I think that should be a test, right? As an MVP, you should be able to name every single. I think you got 3. What did you say? SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams. That's
Well, the most important ones, right?
okay.
So
I see. Okay. Now, here's the thing. So that's a couple of ways to figure out what's new. Um, this isn't technically what's new, but if there's something that you think should be new, there's a user voice. It's Microsoft Teams.uservoice.com. That's a site where you can go to and make a suggestion, and then it can be upvoted, and Microsoft looks at that, and then they actually mark things, like they say, hey, we're looking at it, or we think it's a terrible idea, or we think it's a great idea. And then they'll say when it's in development, and and then actually if it's in development, it'll show up on the roadmap that I talked about before. But so uservoice.com is a great place to go and suggest what should be new in these hundreds of things that they're working
yeah,
on.
for sure. A lot of like the product group really follows what's happening there, and now shared channels was one of the number one things that was upvoted there. So they are really listening. So if you do have a thought, it's likely someone else has come up with it. So go have a look. And if it's something no one else has come up with, but you think it's a good idea, by all means, post it, and then tell your friends to go vote and upvote it. So because the product group's listening, so go have at it.
Yeah, now sometimes we talk about new features, and then people say, well, wait a second, I don't have that. Or even sometimes between us, like one
Yeah.
feature we'll see, or in a different tenant for one of our clients, the feature won't be there or whatever. So I know that there's these rings and release schedules, and that impacts it. So maybe you could explain that a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I mean, it's somewhat sorted, but at a very high level, there's a few things. There's the shipping version. So there's the version that you have within Teams, and then there's a features flag that's kind of in the background that's enabling and disabling some of these features. So what you see in your client kind of depends on those shipping version and feature flags. But the overriding thing that controls them are these rings that Microsoft's created to kind of gate what features are hitting what clients at any one given time. And they've taken some time to write about this in detail. But basically, most people in the world are going to be on something called Ring 4, which is the general public, and then they'll have a TAP and a preview program, a technology adaptation program. A preview is considered a Ring 3, which is one step below. And then you get into like the weeds and testing the early dog food stuff internally. Microsoft refers to it as eating their own dog food. And that might be in like Ring 1.5 or even development rings. So they use these rings to introduce and gate these features to come out. And they can hit broader sets of communities so that they can get unbiased feedback from all different user communities on how a feature might be working. So this is why, sometimes somebody may see a feature ahead of someone else. They might be in a TAP program testing out some features. They might be whitelisted for certain things in terms of those feature flags. So there is a process, and it's been around for quite a while, and that's essentially how these why sometimes you don't essentially see features between tenants and even users within the same tenant. As well. And sometimes when you see things, terms like rolling out, they don't just say, okay, release this feature now, and everybody just magically appears. It takes some time for that feature to propagate, even if it's a release to Ring 4. So it might take a month or a month and a half for it to reach all tenants worldwide.
Yeah, because I guess when you have 145 million daily active users and a whole bunch of other users, probably you just don't turn them all on all at once.
Right.
So. But no, that's good on the rings. I thought it was like, I don't know. I always thought it was like Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all. But I guess there's a lot of different rings. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode of Turbocharging Teams. A little bit about how you can keep track of what's new and what's coming with Microsoft Teams, because as we pointed out, there's hundreds of new and changed features on a monthly basis. So take a look at some of those, try them out. Hopefully it makes your workday a little bit better. And until next time, stay safe and take care.
Thanks. See you later.